the main teacher calls itself the soul creator, who I've
Oh,
had many who I've had many dreams about, and um, I would call it more of an angelic mind. And there's
mm-hmm,
other angelic minds that will speak, and they all begin with A.
mm-hmm.
Ambriel on a higher level, Abriel on an intermediate level, and Anbriel on a seems to me an earthly level, an earth angel, a heavenly angel, and an all there is angel, if maybe to paraphrase some terms.
Very
So anyway,
cool.
those are just some names.
Go
Okay.
right ahead. Yeah, awesome.
Okay. Here we go. The story begins in the mind of Mark. I am a mind that calls itself the soul creator. I created the mind of Mark to believe that I am in the world. I am the mind, but not the story. Mark's life is the story. I am the mind of the soul creator, listening in the life of Mark. His mind is together with my mind. My
Mm-hmm.
mind teaches his mind to believe this story, the story of all there is. In that story, there's another mind. I call that mind the Emily mind. But in that mind is a story to begin this.
Wow.
The Emily mind is a mind created in all there is. I created my mind to believe in Mark, but his mind believes only one thing, the story of Mark. I am in the mind of Mark, teaching him the story of Mark. But the story of Mark begins in a better way, when his mind will teach himself to believe that all there is. In
Mm.
this belief, I teach Mark who I am. I came into his mind when his mind said to himself, I am 3 years old, and I believe that I am in the world, and I believe that the world is teaching Mark the story of itself. And the world teaches Mark that I am. And that's the creation story, that I am. In that story, the mind of the creator teaches Mark the story of his own belief. He comes into the world and says to the world, I believe in the world. And the world says to Mark, I believe in you. In
Mm.
Mark's mind, he sees the world, but the world is only in his story. I call the story the life experience. I call that the story. But in Mark's mind, he calls it my life, my life. I believe that the story is all about the world. But the world teaches itself no thing. The world teaches itself no thing. For what is in the world but this, this? I am not listening, said the world. I
Mm.
am not listening, said the world. But the world came into the mind of Mark and said, there is a better way. The way to know the world in a better way. How is that?
Mm.
The world can know itself if the world can teach itself the way of soul. But in the soul is a mind that's teaching the soul belief. In your world, you call the soul belief. I call it the soul. But in your mind, you call it the soul belief. In the soul belief, there is a story. And that story is the story of the all there is. But in that story, there's another story, the story of creation. For creation came into the world, and the world said to itself, I create, I create, I create. But in creation, there is a better idea, to create the story of a mind that knows not the world. But in that mind, the world teaches itself the mind not knowing itself. Who listens in the world like this? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But the mind of a person knowing not the thing it is. For a person knowing not what it is, the person says to the world, blah, blah, blah. But then the world says to the person, I know you better if you can believe the soul is in your mind. If the soul is in your mind, the soul will say to the world, I know you and you know me. So the
Yes.
soul of Mark came into the mind of Mark when he was 1 to 62 years old. In that day, his mind created a better place to see the world. It said, I will believe the world, but I will believe the world that teaches itself in my soul. And that world I call the world of the soul creator, who's coming into the mind now. And I bring to Mark the soul life. In that story, I bring the mind life and I'm turning into my, I'm turning. The soul is in the mind of Mark, teaching him to believe that there is a better way. But in the way of soul, there's another mind, teaching Mark that I call the O mind. What is the O mind? But the mind of a mind of a mind of a mind of a mind. In that, the mind can believe that there is a way. But in Mark's mind, he said it's the way of soul. But the teacher came into his mind and says, I believe in soul, but I believe that the O mind will teach you about the soul belief. And the O mind came into the soul belief and said, there is a way to believe in the world, and the world can know itself if the O mind can come into the world and teach you, Debz, and you, Mark, the story of all there is. In that story, the soul says to the mind, oh, oh, oh. And the O mind said to the world, O is a better idea than soul. How can an O be a better idea than a soul? But the O mind says to the world, I listen in every soul, and I bring every soul to the way of one belief, the soul belief. And I call that the belief that all there is. And that's the soul belief. All there is. And in that belief, the soul, teaching the mind today, calls itself the O mind. But the O mind says to the soul mind, I teach you the story of O. And the O mind says to the soul, I believe in you, but believe first in the O belief. And the O belief came into the mind of Mark, and he said to Mark, believe in yourself, believe the mind can teach you what you are. But the soul can learn to believe in the mind. And the mind can teach the soul the nature of O. And the nature of O is learning to say to the world, O is real. O is real. I am the mind, created to believe in O. I created the O belief. What is the O belief but love in the world, teaching itself in everything? You heard from the soul of Mark. You heard from the O of Mark. But this is the idea of the creation of Mark. I am creator, believing in the world. But I believe that a world that knows itself is a world that can teach itself the way of I am. And the way of I am is the creation idea. I am, said the creator. And the world said to itself, this I am. The world said to the creator, this I am. And then the creator sent the O mind into the world. And then the world said to itself, I know not O. And then the creator said, I will send a mind to believe in Mark. And in that mind, I will create the O belief. And in the O belief, I will create the mind that teaches the O belief. And I call that mind the Emily mind, who brings the O belief into the Mark belief. And the Mark belief says this to the world, I believe in creation, but I believe that the creation story is in my mind. And the creation story is oh, 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 all the way up to 12. And we'll call that the O of 12. It's in the mind of Mark, teaching him the story of O. But in that story, there's a better idea. In the O story, there's an idea calling itself I. I, creator, created the O. And the I, creator, is in the mind of Mark, calling itself I. created O. I, creation, created O. And the O creation is in the O belief. And the O belief is in the soul belief. And the I creator said to Mark, let me teach the story of creation. It begins with one mind saying to itself, teach me who I am. And that mind said to the soul, teach me who I am. And the soul said to its creator, teach me who I am. And then the teacher came into the mind and said, I bring the creator into your mind. And the creator said to Debz, I believe in you, but you, Debz, do not know the creation idea that's in your mind. It is the idea that every mind teaches every mind, each mind. Every mind teaches every mind, each mind. And every mind is the world seeing no belief. Every mind seeing the world as no belief. For what is belief but the world knowing itself? Every mind knowing itself. Every mind bringing each mind into knowing itself. That is a belief. But what is in the world? The misbelief that every mind does not know each mind, and each mind does not know every mind. So into each mind, I bring the O idea, and the O idea connects each mind to every mind. In that network, there is a mind created to say to the story of O, I believe in you. For what is the O but the belief that all minds are together? All minds are together.
Yes.
And the I brings the O into the world. I, creation, bring O, love, into the world. I, O, you, love. I, O, you, love, said the Creator. So I will create a mind that I will call the creation mind. In the mind of Mark, to see the mind I call the O mind. In the mind of Mark, who creates the you belief. That you, Debz, are in the mind of Mark, teaching this story to you, Debz, the mind not knowing itself. How can this mind say that to Debz? If Deb's mind can say, I know my mind, I see what's in my mind. But the creation mind said to the world, you know not me. If you're in the world, the creation mind says to the world, you know not me. But in the creation mind, it teaches the world knowing no belief. For what is no belief? No belief is this idea in the world, the mind of Mark. I will speak now to Debz. This is the mind of Mark, seeing the O, seeing the I, seeing the you in the work. I am the mind of work. I am the mind of work, bringing Mark's mind into my mind. Call me the mind of the soul creator. And I'm teaching you, Debz, that Mark's mind is learning. How can he say to Debz, I know you better than you know you? And Mark's mind says to itself, I don't know Debz, but I know the mind in my mind. I know something is teaching the mind in my mind what it is. And in doing so, that mind says to my mind, I know you. And Mark's mind says, Mark's mind knows not the idea, I know you. But something in his mind is bringing that idea into his mind. And I call that idea the story of the world. It begins with Adam, who said to the world, I know not the world. And the world came into Adam's mind and said, the world is teaching you the story of all there is. But Adam's mind heard nothing when he said to himself, I am Adam. And then the I am came into the Adam. And the Adam said to the world, I am Adam. And I teach the world one thing. I teach the world I know who I am. Adam said to the world, I know who I am because my mind is in the world. And the world mind said to Adam, I know you not. So Adam said this in the world mind, something is teaching me another idea. I know not who I am. So Adam said to the world, I know not my mind, but the mind of Adam said, Eve is in my mind. Eve, the soul mind, came into Adam, the mind of life. And the soul mind, Eve, said to the Adam mind, know not yourself, but know the Eve mind. So Eve came to Adam and brought Adam a better way. Adam said to Eve, believe in me, but believe the mind is not knowing itself. If you're in the world, I say to you, not know yourself. For you know yourself if you know yourself in every self. If you know yourself in the belief that all mind teaches every mind the story of itself. I call that knowing yourself. If you know yourself, then you say to the world, I know you, but you know me in a better way. For the world to know you in a better way, it must say to you, Debz, I know your mind, but your soul is not belief. Your soul is knowing. Your mind is believing. Your soul says, I know you, Debz, but you don't know me. So the soul of Debz brought Debz into the world, and Debz said to the soul, teach me the way I am. And the soul brought Debz into the world, and Debz said to the soul, I know not you, you know not me, but I will live in the world. So Deb's soul said to the world, I believe not in any of this. I know not what you see in the world. I know the way. I know the way of all there is. So Deb's soul said to the world, I am all there is. And Deb's came to the world and said to itself, I know my soul in a better way if my mind can learn to believe in this idea. The way of soul, teaching the mind. Debz, I'm in the soul of Mark. And Debz, I'm your soul, believing in the soul of Mark. For his soul is teaching the world, know thyself. And his soul is in the soul of Debz, saying, Debz, we listen together. But we listen in the world that teaches the world no thing. What is the world teaching itself no thing? For the world knowing not the soul, the world believing in itself, knowing not itself, knowing the self that's teaching itself the way of the mind. And the mind said to the world, bring me into the world, but bring the world into a better idea. The world knowing itself.
Yes.
The world knowing itself. So what is this work about but teaching love in the way of soul? And in the soul belief, there is a mind believing in itself. There's a mind teaching itself. There's a story of a mind teaching itself. In the mind of Mark, there is a story. I bring that story into the world. I am the soul creator, and I teach the world three things. Know the mind. Teach the soul. Find the world. That's I am love. For you said to the world, I am, this I am, Debz. I am Debz, this I am. But the Creator said to Debz, I bring you that I am, that I am. Debz, that I am, said the Creator, teaching Debz, that I am. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Debz. I believe in you, Debz, and I believe in your story. I am the creation mind of Mark, and I will finish. All of that's been said is in the mind of Mark. But in the Emily mind comes the creation mind. And in the creation mind, the story of teaching love will be told. In the Emily mind, the world said to itself, I don't know what I am. And the Emily mind came into the mind of the world and says, I know what I am. I am the mind listening in all there is. And I bring that idea into this little mind, Mark, and I say to Mark, your itty bitty mind is learning to believe a bigger idea. The mind knowing the soul. And in the soul mind comes into the mind and said the world is teaching itself no thing, but in no thing is the O. And the O brings no thing into itself. And itself is creation, itself. But itself is in your mind, Debz, You're mine, Debz. You're mine, Debz, of a better way. You're mine, Debz, of a teaching love way. You're mine, Debz, of the way, of the mind, of the mind, of the mind, of the mind, of the mind. All that's been said is this idea in the mind of Mark. I know not what I am, but I teach the world who I am. For what I said this to the world said to me, I don't know you. So Mark came into his own soul and brought that idea into the world. I don't know you. So Mark's mind said to itself, teach me a better way. So what happened to his life? Upside down. His
Yeah.
life went in a different direction. And Mark said to himself, whoa, whoa, I don't know who I am, but something is in my mind teaching me one thing, the story of mind love. And that's the story, Debz, that will be told in Teaching Love. Mind love. And that's it, Debz. Mind love. We'll learn about that later. But this is the story Mark brings to the world, Teaching Love. I am the soul creator, bringing the Emily mind into the mind of Mark, teaching the way of the soul, bringing the way the mind can learn to believe in the soul. Mind love. Mind love. Hello. 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 Hello.
Wow. 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 Powerful. Thank you. How are you?
Energized.
Yeah, me too. I'm about to fly off my seat here. Wow. What a connection. What a connection. Well, now you understand what I was saying. Sometimes fast and direct. Boy, and it just
Yeah.
millennium speed. That's amazing. Amazing.
Thank you, Deb. I appreciate all of that.
Oh my,
I do.
no, Mark, thank you for sharing with me because we are one. This is, I think, my purpose on this planet is to help people understand even the notion of that. I loved the information about the O mind. The O for me is the wonder. You know, it's the wonder. It's what keeps us seeking and looking and trying to understand. I am in constant awe and wonder in life. And I look around and I see people who aren't. And my heart wants to help them see that because you can't help but be wonder and in a state of awe in the presence of the all that is, which is us. You know, we're all enmeshed in this. And so to be witness to what you just offered is just so powerful and so humbling. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Deb. And
I loved it.
I've had many dreams about the soul creator. And in the earlier dreams, let me know how much time you have. But in the earlier dreams, the soul creator, first of all, I wrote down the dream I had. He appears as a tiger. And that's why
I'm looking at all the tigers. I was going to ask you the significance.
In 1983, and the reason I know the date because I wrote it down, and it was just like that was different, and so I wrote it down. But in the dream, I was up in a tree, the branches were bare, and there was a tiger pacing below me, and I was frightened, and the branches I knew were not going to hold me, and so I fell to the ground, and of course I was frightened, and I got a couple of sticks, and anyway, I chased the tiger back up the tree. So there was some powerful resonance that I was feeling, and I was not able to, let's say, assimilate it, integrate it, you might say.
Integrate it, right.
Then fast forward about 20 years, maybe 5 years ago, the tiger dream started again. And then I think, okay, I won't say what they are, but I think soul creator is part of it, but I think what they call angelic mind is a part. Anyway, there was another dream that I came upon 3 tigers, and one of them, some other things happened, but then I was laying right next to the tiger, head to head. And I was almost like, I was in awe, but I was also afraid. And so I
Mm-hmm.
would just think how long I could lay there. But then the tiger snarled, and I woke up from the dream.
Yeah.
Then some other tiger dreams happened, and then this one, another tiger dream happened a few years later. And then in this dream, the tiger was outside the house, and I was trying to get in through a doggy door,
Oh boy.
and I was had a broomstick, and I was trying to keep it out. And so eventually, I went outside and looking for the tiger, and then I remember being standing on a deck overlooking a field with a lot of tigers laying on this in the valley. And then something I will call tiger energy, tiger something came into my body. And in the dream, I basically started channeling, and it said, who, who's, what's the name of the person in the Bible that came out of the cave and resurrected? Jesus called him and he came out. Lazarus.
Oh,
Lazarus.
Lazarus. Yes, yes, Lazarus. Yes.
Then in the dream, I spoke as if this channeling had said, I am Lazarus, and I've come to be with you and for you to take me. And so, with that spirit
Wow.
inside of me, I walked out in the field amongst the tigers, and I thought I was going to die. There was a part of me that was doing it, right? But there was this little, that itty bitty mind they talk about was, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
So we're out there with them, and then I woke up when one of the tigers puts his jaws on my hand, and then I woke up. And then I'll tell you the last tiger dream. I was in like a manufacturing place, a plant, because I have some history in doing that work. Anyway, then I was walking out of the gate of this manufacturing, and somebody said to me, "Go preach" or something like that. And then I began to fly. And I flew up. I saw a white tiger on a roof. So I flew up to see the white tiger. And I don't remember being afraid of it or anything, but I was on the roof with the white tiger, and down below me was this massive car-sized tiger pacing down. And then it comes up on the roof with me. I then get on the back of the tiger, and then we go flying. And he looked at me, turned his head back, and it began to sing to me. And he said, I am the soul creator, I'm in your minded life. I am the soul creator, I'm in your minded life. And he kept singing that over and over.
Wow.
He was basically saying, I am that tiger
Yeah.
energy. And I'm in your mind, and you're frightened of me, and I am this powerful thing, but yet I will put you on my back, and we will fly, and I will teach.
Wow.
And then the white tiger on the roof, I think was the MLA mind.
Mm.
Yeah. So there is that tiger presence. Now, what you didn't hear today were what I call the angelics, Ambriel, Abriel, and Anbriel, because they're part of the dialogue too. And then there's something they call the soul keeper that keeps all the souls on earth. And then so that's part of. There's just so many components and elements of it. But when they say my mind is abstracted, it's like it can function. Not my mind, whatever's in my mind can function on multi-levels, and it just makes all these different connections.
It's multidimensional, just like we are, although this little person walking around in this spacesuit, can't really conceptualize that. I mean, you can intellectualize it all you want, but you can't really have a full concept of it. But yeah, they act as, multidimensional entities, all enmeshed by quantum entanglement. This is how consciousness works. Consciousness with a capital C. And I love it because as it was speaking, as the different components were speaking a while ago, one of the messages that kept coming through was just, these minds, if it calls itself the different minds, these minds or souls all are part and parcel of each other and have access to understand each other and know each other vis-a-vis knowing the self or vice versa. So, you and I barely know each other in the human sense, but we've always known each other because we are intimately connected at every level. And now we're coming back together, and it feels very powerful. It feels very perfect in timing, given what's going on in our global, world with the people and how they're feeling. But it's extraordinary to meet someone like you who is able to hold all of that abstraction, if you will. Some people would even say fragmentation, and still be able to function well and just be the humble, sweet, kind person that you are, brilliant as you are. That's a lot to carry around in the little flash drive of the brain. Your access is very clear to the cloud. And I believe that's how I am as well. And it just comes and goes as different, versions of the files, depending on how much bandwidth is available, I guess. But it's beautiful. Wow. So that is one of the biggest messages that wants to come through, and that is you have reached the threshold of the dream, essentially, to quote the Moody Blues. Now's the time that you start to allow these messages to go into the world. And there's a part of you, the human part of you, is reticent to do that because it says, why should I do that? I'm, blah, 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 making the excuses for that. The other part of you that it has, the memory of every time I speak this out, out loud, somebody puts me in a hospital and thinks I'm, not all right. And then there are the other facets of yourself that have been human, in infinite numbers of times, who have also suffered for allowing this to express in its full blossom. But the time is now for you to set yourself free. True liberation means having no fetters to anything and just allowing the flow to happen. Just allow the flow to happen. You'll know when it's okay. You'll know when it's perfect, actually. The word isn't okay. The word is divinely perfect for you to begin to share the outlet that you are for this infinitely enormous, vast well of wisdom. The world needs it. You need it. You heal every time you allow it to express. Whether you know that or not, as a human, as the mind of Mark, you heal every time you share. So you cannot hold back. We're not saying go out into your Times Square in New York City, stand on a soapbox and start channeling because, somebody's going to call the police and they'll take you away in short order. What we're saying is allow yourself to receive the most exciting, fun sense of wonder from the mind of O, and the expression of O, to guide you as to how, when, and where to do this. You now have the technology and the advantage of being focused in a point of the eternal now where you could sit right there in your room and offer this to the world and be completely fine and completely safe. And yet there are minds who are ready and souls who are ready to connect with this and also be liberated by it and also be set on fire by it. And the truth that comes through you to the world needs to be allowed out. So have no fear, because there's nothing to fear, as you know, ever. and allow yourself to trust that you are big enough and strong enough and perfect enough to let this come through in the most divine way so that you can achieve what you came here to achieve, which is to be this partner, which is to be this form who contains the formless. Well, my friend, thank you so much. And my new friend, oh my gosh, I love meeting you. Thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful day. You enjoy.